The city of Valoria shimmered under a velvet sky, lights glittering like diamonds scattered across black satin. At the heart of it stood the Crystal Crown, a rooftop restaurant where chandeliers glowed like captured stars, and every crystal glass reflected wealth and elegance. It was a place where the world's richest came to be seen, and where those without status were invisible. Tonight, the restaurant had a VIP reservation that made even the staff nervous. At table 7 sat Alexander Arison, CEO of Oracle Gold Group, one of the most powerful business figures in the region. His wife, Clara, graceful and soft-spoken. And their daughter, Serena Arison, the girl everyone in Valoria knew. Serena wasn't just rich, she performed her wealth. Designer dress shimmering gold, diamond earrings that caught every beam of light, perfectly curled blonde hair, a beauty crafted for admiration, and she expected nothing less. But beauty wasn't her real power. Her confidence, bordering arrogance, was. Wherever Serena walked, people moved. Their waiter that evening was a young man named Ethan Hale. He wore a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled neatly, black apron tied with precision. His dark hair was combed back simply, and his movements were quiet and efficient, but graceful in a way that felt intentional, controlled. His eyes were calm, steady, observant. He looked like someone who knew how to listen, not just to words, but to everything. But no one noticed that. To Serena, he was just one thing: a waiter. Serena looked up at Ethan with a half-lazy, half-condescending lift of her chin. Serena said, voice dripping elegance and disdain, "Excuse me, waiter. I'll have the imported sparkling water. The Italian one, not the cheap domestic brand, please. I can tell the difference." He smiled gently. "Of course, ma'am. I'll bring it right away." As Ethan walked away, Serena leaned back in her chair, smirking. He's new. He doesn't fit the aesthetic here. It's like when someone puts a plastic flower next to real roses. Her parents shifted uncomfortably. They were used to her attitude, but not proud of it. Clara sighed softly. "Serena, be kind." "Oh, I am being kind. I could be worse." Soon, Serena's friends appeared, equally glamorous, equally privileged. They sat down, laughing too loudly, glancing at themselves in their phone screens more than at each other. When Ethan returned with the sparkling water, Serena's friends watched him like he was part of the entertainment. One whispered, "Cute in a tragic, lower-class sort of way." Another giggled, "Do you think he dreams about eating here but can't afford it?" Ethan placed the glasses on the table calmly, hands steady. Serena leaned forward, voice loud enough for multiple tables to hear. "So tell us, Ethan, do you ever wish you belonged here, or do you just enjoy watching rich people live their real lives?" The restaurant went quiet. Clara pressed her hand to her forehead. Alexander looked away. Ethan paused, and instead of shrinking, he smiled. "A person's worth isn't decided by the table they serve at, ma'am. It's decided by who they are when no one is watching." It was gentle, respectful, no hostility. And yet, it hit Serena hard. Her expression flickered, embarrassment then anger. Her friends burst into oohs, making the moment even louder. Serena's pride cracked just a little. Alexander's phone buzzed again, then again, and again. His company was in crisis. A sudden market shift had broken one of their most complicated financial models, something involving risk index forecasting. If they couldn't fix it fast, they were looking at a $500 million collapse. His face grew tense, exhausted. Serena noticed, but dismissed it. "Dad, stop checking your work. We're eating. The world can wait." But the world didn't care about dinner. And neither did Ethan, who, while passing by, caught a glimpse of Alexander's phone screen. His eyes paused, just for a second. He recognized it. Not just the numbers, the model itself. The formula required advanced mathematical modeling, used only by high-level analysts and academic researchers. A formula Ethan shouldn't have known. But he did, and effortlessly. He spoke softly. "Sir, your equation's variable index is inverted." Alexander looked up sharply. "What?" He pointed gently, not touching, just indicating. "Your model is treating inflation as increasing, but it actually inverted 12 days ago. If you adjust the coefficient placement here," he traced the corrected sequence in the air, clear and precise, "your projected loss drops from 62% to under 5%. The entire table froze. Serena stared like someone had thrown ice water down her spine. Alexander blinked, then opened his laptop immediately. Everyone watched. Numbers recalculated. Data refreshed. And the outcome appeared. Loss 4.7%. Not 62%. Not catastrophic. Saved. Saved by a waiter. Alexander stood up, in disbelief. "How did you know that?" Ethan didn't brag, didn't smile. Just answered simply, "I was studying applied theoretical mathematics at Valoria Institute. I was meant to graduate top of my class." Serena's voice cracked. "So then why? Why are you a waiter?" Ethan exhaled, quietly. Life doesn't always go the way we think it will. And somehow, that hurt more than any insult she had thrown. Alexander placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder, firm, respectful, grateful. "You just saved my company, my employees, my life's work." Then he turned to Ethan and spoke the sentence Serena never saw coming. "You're not a waiter anymore. Starting tomorrow, you will work for me." Serena's mouth fell open. Her friend stared. The restaurant murmured. And Ethan, the boy she laughed at, became someone she had no power over anymore.
The next morning, Oracle Gold Group headquarters rose into the sky like a glass monolith, polished, intimidating, and unmistakably powerful. Executives in tailored suits moved with purpose, security guards stood like statues, and assistants typed with the speed of pressure and ambition. And walking through the revolving doors, Ethan Hale. But today he wasn't wearing a waiter's apron. He wore a clean white dress shirt, dark trousers, and a simple tie. No luxury labels, no attempt to impress. Yet he carried himself with a quiet confidence that turned heads more than designer fabric ever could. Some employees looked at him with curiosity, some with confusion, but the whispers began quickly. "Isn't that the waiter from Crystal Crown? Why is he with the CEO? What's happening?" Because walking beside Ethan was none other than Alexander Arison, the man everyone feared and respected, the man who rarely walked with anyone. Serena stepped out of a sleek black town car in front of the building, heels clicking sharply on marble. She was still beautiful, still polished, still walking like the world opened when she approached. But inside her, something had been shaken. Her pride, her certainty, her image of who was above and who was below. She entered the building expecting admiration. Instead, she saw employees looking past her, eyes moving beyond her shoulder, staring at him, at Ethan, at the waiter. Her heartbeat spiked, her face flushed, but she smiled, the kind of smile built from denial. "Oh, that's cute," she murmured, slipping her sunglasses off. "He probably begged my father for this, or Dad is being charitable." But a tiny voice in her chest whispered something she tried to crush. What if it's not charity? What if he really deserves to be here? She pushed the thought away like it burned. Alexander led Ethan into a glass conference room. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city that made anyone feel small. Inside sat the executive strategy team, the brightest minds money could buy. Except today, money had bought the wrong minds. Charts, graphs, simulations were displayed across multiple holographic screens. The $50 million model problem, the one Ethan solved in seconds, still loomed over the company. Alexander stood at the head of the table. "Everyone, this is Ethan Hale. He will be working as a quantitative strategy analyst, effective immediately." Silence. Someone coughed. A woman in a black blazer forced a polite smile. "Welcome, Ethan. May I ask, where did you complete your graduate research?" Ethan answered simply, "I didn't finish. I left the university before the final year." A man in a navy suit raised an eyebrow sharply. "So you don't have a degree?" "No," Ethan replied. The executives looked at each other, confused, concerned, judging. Serena entered the room just in time to hear that. She smiled, sharp, satisfied. Finally, she had something to use. She took her seat, front row, legs crossed elegantly. "My father," she said sweetly, "is known for charity projects. We all understand." Ethan didn't react. Alexander did. He turned a cold glance at his daughter. "This is not charity." Serena's smile cracked. One of the senior analysts stood, projecting a data sequence. "We've been stuck on this risk model update for over a week. If Ethan is as capable as we've heard, perhaps he can walk us through his thinking on the corrected coefficient substitutions." It was a challenge, a public test, a polite way of saying, "Let's see if the waiter sinks." Ethan walked to the holographic screen. No hesitation, no fear. And he explained the model, not with arrogance, not with showmanship, but with clarity. His voice was calm, his reasoning elegant, his logic precise. He didn't just solve the model. He made it simple, understandable, beautiful. Even the senior analyst blinked. The woman in the black blazer whispered, "He's brilliant." But Serena, her chest tightened, hands curled into fists, because what she saw wasn't just intelligence, it was effortless intelligence, real intelligence. Not the kind bought from tutors, paid internships, or last-minute miracle connections. Something she didn't have. Something she couldn't fake. When the room cleared, Serena cornered Ethan near the window. Her voice was smooth, almost soft, but sharpened with threat. "You think this changes anything, don't you? Just because my father gave you a desk." Ethan's gaze was steady. "I didn't ask for your approval." She stepped closer.
So tell me then, why were you working at a restaurant if you're so smart, if you were supposed to be some top student? Ethan looked out at the city, eyes distant. My mother got sick. I left school to care for her. The medical bills were overwhelming. His voice did not tremble, but the weight in it was real. Serena's breath stilled. For just a moment, a crack of silence. But pride, her old stubborn pride, snapped back fast. "That's tragic," she said lightly, "but it still doesn't mean you belong here." Ethan turned his head, eyes meeting hers, calm and unbreaking. "I don't need to belong here." A pause. "I just need to be good enough that no one can make me leave." Serena swallowed, not because of what he said, but because she believed him. That afternoon, the story spread through the company. The new analyst wasn't just smart, he was a prodigy. And something else spread with it. Respect. Not forced, not demanded, earned. Ethan became someone people listened to, and Serena watched it all. Her confidence wavered, her control weakened. Her world, the neat hierarchy where she was always above, began to tilt, and she hated it. But she couldn't look away from him anymore.
For the next week, the atmosphere inside Oracle Gold Group shifted in ways no one expected. Charts were cleaned, models corrected, forecasts refined. And each time a department hit a wall, someone would say, "Ask Ethan." He wasn't loud, he wasn't proud. He didn't brag or wave his intelligence like a flag. But he helped, patiently, quietly, clearly. And that, ironically, made him impossible to ignore. Even employees who initially looked down on him now asked him questions with respect, some with awe, and some with envy. Serena Arison sat at her desk, fingers motionless over her keyboard. Emails, reports, numbers, all blurred. She was too busy watching Ethan from across the floor, how executives approached him with genuine uncertainty, how analysts leaned forward as he explained solutions, how senior staff listened. Her jaw tightened. She wasn't jealous of his intelligence. She was jealous of how effortlessly people admired him. She was used to admiration, but the kind that came from expensive clothes, perfect hair, last name power. But Ethan, he was admired for something she couldn't buy. Real ability. At lunch, Serena entered her father's office, expecting their usual conversation about her training in the company. Instead, Alexander was standing at the window, arms folded, watching the city. "Serena," he said, without turning. "Sit." She sat slowly. "I've reviewed your performance reports." She smiled sweetly. "Good, I hope." "They're not good." The room froze. Her smile broke, as if someone had slapped it off her face. I've been working." Alexander raised a hand. "You've been showing up. That's not the same as working." Her face burned red. "And I've decided something." Her heart lifted, expecting reassurance. "I'm assigning you a mentor." Her confidence returned for a second. "Oh, good. Which VP? Or the Chief Strategy Officer? I suppose I can work with—" He finally turned. His eyes were serious, cold, clear. "Ethan." The word hit her like a glass floor cracking beneath her feet. She laughed. At first. A shaky, brittle laugh. You can't be serious. I am, he replied. You want me, your daughter, to learn from a restaurant waiter? No, Alexander corrected slowly. I want you to learn from a mathematical genius who humbled this entire firm in one afternoon. The truth hit hard. Too hard. Serena felt something twist inside her. Humiliation. Fear. And something worse. She agreed with him. The mentorship decision spread through the building like wildfire. Whispers filled hallways. The CEO wants Ethan to train Serena. Does that mean she's not as smart as she pretends? Are they becoming close? Maybe he's replacing her. Serena could feel the shift. Not admiration. Not envy. Pity. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't allow that. So she marched right to Ethan's desk. Stand up. Ethan looked up from the data modeling interface. Calm. Almost amused. I just need to talk. He stood. They stepped into an empty glass meeting room. Serena crossed her arms, defensive, angry, unstable. You're enjoying this, aren't you? What part? The attention, the praise, everyone suddenly treating you like some genius savior. Ethan blinked once. I didn't ask for that. No, she snapped, but you're letting it happen. Silence. Angry, heavy, silence. Serena's voice dropped, quieter, cracked at the edges. Do you know what it's like to have everything expected of you? To be told since childhood that you are exceptional, only to realize people only said it because of your last name? Ethan studied her. This wasn't the arrogant socialite speaking. This was the human underneath. The girl who'd always been living next to a mountain she didn't know how to climb. Yes, Ethan whispered. Serena looked up sharply. What? How would you know? Ethan exhaled slowly. Because I grew up being told I would change the world, until life decided I wouldn't. A moment of understanding passed between them. Small, fragile, uncomfortable. I don't want your pity. I don't want to give it. Serena looked away, flustered, angry at herself, angry at him. Fine. If I have to be your student, I will. But don't expect me to make it easy. Ethan almost smiled. I'd never expect you to. That afternoon, Ethan began teaching her how to approach data risk analysis using logical narrative structures. Not numbers first. Stories first. Every data set is a story. You have to understand why people act before you measure how they act. Serena frowned, concentrating hard. So, I don't start with the equations? No, Ethan said softly. You start with the human behavior behind them. Something unlocked in her expression. Recognition. Understanding. For the first time, Serena wasn't being talked at. She was being taught. Truly. Patiently. Respectfully. And she realized something devastating. Ethan was not her enemy. He was everything she wished she could be. Not perfect, not privileged, not adored for superficial reasons, but undeniably brilliant. She looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time since the restaurant, her heart did something strange. Something unwelcome? Something warm? Something dangerous? She began to care.
The next morning, the city's biggest headline wasn't about fashion, business, or politics. It was about him. Anonymous waiter solved $500 million corporate failure overnight. Who is the genius behind the Grant family's turnaround? Reporters were already waiting outside Villa Aurelius by sunrise. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Elena sat at the massive dining table, staring into her untouched breakfast. Her father, Victor Grant, stood at the head of the room in a dark suit, one hand holding the morning newspaper, the other rubbing his forehead in disbelief. Across from them stood Ethan, still in his humble black waiter uniform. He felt strangely calm. Victor finally spoke. "Son?" He paused, realizing something. His tone softened. "May I call you that?" Ethan swallowed, surprised. "Sir, I'm just a waiter." "No." Victor set the newspaper down. "Not anymore." Elena's eyes lifted slowly. She hadn't looked at Ethan since last night. Her voice was small. "I mocked you." Ethan didn't interrupt. "I laughed at you. I treated you like you were beneath us." Her fingers trembled slightly. "And all this time, you were the one who could save us." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Real, honest, vulnerable. The girl who had always stood above everyone was now looking up. Ethan gave a small, gentle smile. "You didn't know, and you learned. That's what matters." She blinked, holding back tears. No yelling, no revenge, no humiliation. Just understanding. And somehow, that hurt her more. In a good way. Victor stepped forward. "Ethan, tell us the truth. Where did you learn mathematics like that?" Ethan hesitated, eyes turning distant. "My father was a professor, a brilliant one. He taught me everything before I even turned 8. He spoke slowly, quietly. But when he died, my mother got sick. I had to leave school to take care of her. I started working tables to survive." Victor's expression shifted, respect replacing curiosity. "So the world never saw you?" "It didn't need to." Ethan shrugged lightly. "I just needed to keep my mother alive." Silence. Heavy. Human. Elena stared at him like she was seeing a whole different universe inside a person she once ignored. Victor straightened. "Ethan, I want you to join my company." He didn't speak like a businessman. He spoke like a man making a promise. Not as an employee, not as a consultant. Elena's breath caught. Victor continued. "As Director of Strategic Mathematics and Systems. The position is yours, effective today. Salary? More than anything a CEO anywhere would match." Ethan stepped back in shock. "But, sir..." "This is not charity," Victor interrupted. "This is recognition." Elena felt something new growing inside her chest. Pride. Real pride. In someone else. She finally spoke, voice soft but strong. "You deserve it." Ethan looked at her. Not as a waiter, not as a servant, but as someone equal. The sun dipped behind the skyline, glowing orange and gold. The villa's balcony overlooked the whole city. Ethan leaned on the marble railing. Elena stepped out quietly beside him. For once, there was no tension, just the soft sound of wind. "You know," Elena said, staring ahead, "I used to think money made you important." Ethan smiled very gently. "Most people do. But you?" She exhaled. "You had nothing, and still carried more value than any of us." He looked at her not with superiority, not with pride, but with warmth. "That's because value isn't measured in status. It's measured in how you treat people." She nodded slowly. "Then, can I ask something personal?" "Sure." "If we had met, before all this, would you have talked to me as a friend?" Ethan laughed softly. "If you had spoken to me the way you speak now, yes." She smiled. Shy, real, gentle. Not the practiced billionaire's daughter smile. A human one. Then Elena stepped forward slightly. "I want to learn. Not business, not numbers." She looked at him with earnest eyes. "I want to learn how to be a better person." Ethan didn't answer at first. Instead, he extended his hand. Not to shake, but to invite. She slowly placed her hand in his. A new beginning. Not romantic, not rushed, just true. The Grant Corporation soared. Mathematical restructuring transformed their entire system. The company saved millions. Investors praised, competitors crumbled. And beside every major step, every project, every breakthrough, Ethan was there. Elena worked alongside him, not as a figurehead, but as a partner. She learned humility, patience, leadership rooted in compassion. Her father watched them both with satisfaction. The world no longer saw Ethan as a waiter. They saw him as a mind that changed an empire.